Dag Hammarskjöld is dead, but the United Nations live.
Enough is enough.
So imagine a world parliament. Imagine 193 voices gathering together in New York to deliberate over matters of peace and security. The United Nations was established in 1945 with the signatory of 50 countries for the express purpose of preventing the outbreak of war and averting a world war. The United Nations has many parts to it. It deals, for instance, with matters of economics and social policy. It deals with matters of human rights. It deals with matters of culture. But the most important parts of the UN are the Security Council, which has 5 permanent members who are responsible for controlling its policy. These are France, Britain, the United States, China, and Russia. The other body that is very important is where all the nations meet and come together, and that is the General Assembly. Both the General Assembly and the Security Council pass what are called resolutions to make policy for the world. The UN has been responsible for eradicating polio in Africa, for instance, of dealing with problems of debt or problems of other diseases spreading. The UN has been very important in making sure that human rights are observed. The most famous document is the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, which has been ratified and kept by many countries. The UN, precisely because it's so complex, is determined to make sure that everything is done towards a big picture of peace and trying to make sure that humanity attains the primary purpose of what it says, that we believe. We believe in a better future.
A momentous weekend for the Sustainable Development Goals.
It is so decided.
With the UN's official adoption on Friday of 17 goals for ending extreme poverty, fighting inequality, and tackling climate change by 2030, world leaders signaled their commitment to a bold new global agenda.
The agenda you are adopting today advances the goals of the Charter. It embodies the aspirations of people everywhere for lives of peace, security, and dignity on a healthy planet.
Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai and singers and UNICEF Goodwill ambassadors Shakira and Angelique Kidjo kicked off a 3-day summit in support of the goals with speeches and performances at UN headquarters. The next day, Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg and U2 frontman and philanthropist Bono were among the keynote speakers for a UN forum that highlighted the fundamental role of the private sector in advancing the new global goals.
First, we need to work together to make connecting the world a priority for everyone, from governments and industry to civil society. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Facebook is partnering with the One campaign, the One organization, and leaders and public figures all over the world to launch a global campaign to support a connectivity declaration. The declaration recognizes internet access as an important enabler of human rights.
Meanwhile, leaders from almost 200 nations addressed the General Assembly Hall throughout the weekend in support of the post-2015 development agenda. And high-level meetings addressed humanitarian financing, combating hunger and malnutrition, protecting cultural heritage, boosting gender equality, and turning conversation about the goals into action and implementation.
Today we can say to all the people around the world, 2030 agenda is for you. It's for everyone, everywhere. Claim it. Demand that commitments are made and promises kept. Be part of this global call to action. Preparations across the United Nations system are in full swing to support you.
We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war,
que 2 veces durante nuestra vida ha infligido a la humanidad sufrimientos indecibles.
وأن نؤكد من جديد إيماننا بالحقوق الأساسية للإنسان وبكرامة الفرد وقدره وبما للرجال والنساء والأمم كبيرها وصغيرها من حقوق متساوية.
创造适当环境，彼可维持正义，尊重由条约与国际法其他渊源而起之义务，久而浮现。
À favoriser le progrès social et instaurer de meilleures conditions de vie dans une liberté plus grande.
В этих целях проявлять терпимость и жить вместе, в мире друг с другом, как добрые соседи.
وأن نضم قوانا كي نحتفظ بالسلم والأمن الدولي.
À accepter des principes et instituer des méthodes garantissant qu'il ne sera pas fait usage de la force des armes, sauf dans l'intérêt commun.
运用国际机构以促成全球人民经济及社会之进展。
Решили объединить наши усилия для достижения этих целей.
Accordingly, our respective governments, through representatives, assembled in the city of San Francisco,
que han exhibido sus plenos poderes encontrados en buena y debida forma.
قد ارتضت ميثاق الأمم المتحدة هذا.
and do hereby establish an international organization to be known as the United Nations.
Long live the United Nations.
A morning of preparation. 70 years in the making. It all began in San Francisco in 1945. After some 70 million lives were lost to war, delegates, advisors, observers, and civil society from around the world arrived here, determined to find the path to renewal. A pledge which on June 26th was signed as the Charter of the United Nations.
There were many who doubted that agreement could ever be reached by these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
7 decades later to the day, the United Nations, many of its officials and staff, joined by ambassadors, dignitaries, and the public, come together to commemorate the principles upon which it was founded in the city of its birth. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
They dare to believe in something bigger than person or country. For 2 months, they turned San Francisco's war memorial into a peace palace. More than 3,000 women and men took part.
What I remember most about the period was the feeling of hope.
Ellen Magna Newman was just 16 when she worked as a Spanish translator for the signing of the charter at City Hall.
I'd grown up with both wars. All of a sudden, that had ended, and here was no more League of Nations, but a charter that described what could happen to make the world a better place.
The United Nations is the hope and home of all humankind. The charter is our compass.
And it's a compass which continues to point towards the future. In many of the same meeting rooms in which the groundwork of the charter was laid, today some of the world's top leaders in technology met to discuss just how technology can work with the UN to help solve modern-day problems. And change was on everyone's mind when on the same day, marriage equality was granted as a human right to all in the United States. Stuart Milk, nephew of the renowned late LGBT activist Harvey Milk, presented Secretary General Ban Ki-moon with the Harvey Milk Medal for the UN's LGBT rights free and equal campaign.
It's really a recognition of the leadership that Ban Ki-moon has given to this global movement.
Charles Radcliffe is Senior UN Human Rights Advisor on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity.
Many people are surprised to learn this softly spoken Korean gentleman who has emerged as a great advocate for equality for LGBT people around the world.
And as walls to equality were broken down across the country on this day, other walls became a canvas.
I think what I'd love to continue doing with the UN is serve as a visual translator for issues which are hard to talk about.
Celebrated street artist Zio Ziegler created a 13-story high mural, a vivid medium of expression inspired by the United Nations global goals.
My father just turned 70, and I think that this event is like, it's a beautiful parallel, right, with both birthdays happening at the same time, because I think if the UN could play a personal role in all of our lives, it's a humanizing aspect to it, an organization which is larger than life. And I think if I can deliver a similar feeling through my mural or a design, maybe there's that point of accessibility for the random kid off the street.
It's a mural that stands as a towering monument to the efforts and ideals that began 7 decades earlier, an enduring symbol of hope.
The deadliest conflict in human history. During World War II, from 1939 to 1945, over 70 million lives were lost through mass genocide and warfare. But this time, the international call for justice was heard. London, 1943. As the atrocities of the war raged on, 17 countries formed a War Crimes Commission with the goal of investigating and assisting national governments with the trials of war criminals from Europe and the Far East. Approximately 400,000 pages of material were handed over to the fledgling United Nations when the Commission disbanded. Much of it remained locked away for the next 70 years. A full copy of the Commission records was obtained by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., and it is anticipated that many more countries will follow suit in allowing unprecedented access.
We're very pleased because it means that the archives can be readily available according to the access policies of the United States federal government. The Holocaust Museum has also indicated an interest in more of our archives. So again, extremely pleased about that.
70 years after World War II. 70 years after the birth of the United Nations. These records can at last shine a light on the horrors of war.